The Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed was released in 2024 and it was pretty popular back then, but the gaming mouse market since then have become so saturated with new releases that it's fallen into obscurity, and almost no one really talks about or even consider this mouse as a recommendation. Still, 6 months ago, when my Cyrox V8 started to have some build quality issues, I wanted to find a new mouse that are built like a tank to replace it. And then I saw this one being on a discount. It was around $70 US, so I bought it. And after 6 months of daily driving this, here's my thoughts on it and whether or not you should buy it in 2026.
Embarrassing. Four. Back off.
Also, as a quick reminder, unlike other hyperspeed mice from Razer, this one doesn't use a AA battery to run, and it uses USB-C cable to charge. It's more like a mini Deathadder V3 or V4 Pro with an older sensor. First of all, the unboxing experience was pretty mid. Apart from the mouse, there were only a stiff rubber cable that I'm using right now, an adapter, and the 2.4 GHz dongle. There were no grip tips included. There's also some paper and Razer stickers that I didn't realize were there at first because they were so well hidden, but that's pretty much it. Compared to Chinese brands having grip tapes, full size, and dot skates included in the box for you to choose, the unboxing experience can feel pretty underwhelming, but I think it's not a big deal. My only nitpick is that the cable is not too good, and I wish it was a flexible braided cable so that I could use it with the mouse while charging. Now let's talk about the good and the bad parts of this mouse, starting with the good part. Firstly, the build quality is phenomenal. It's been 6 months and there is no creaking or flexing whatsoever. Even if I squeeze it as hard as I can, it won't give up any signs of creaking at all, which was not the case for the Cyrox V8 or the ATK F1 V2 that I've tried. Here's a sound test compared to the other two mice. Secondly, the scroll wheel still feels great after 6 months. The scroll click and the side buttons are still super crispy, especially the side buttons. No pre-travel at all and just a little bit of post-travel. A bit off topic, but the scroll wheel and the side buttons have always been my main nitpicks about budget to mid-range Chinese mice, and I wish brands like ATK could maybe look into them and improve their design. If they can fix this, then I think their mice will feel way more premium. Also, about the main left and right clicks, there will be talk later on, so you can check the timestamps if you want to skip to the sections. Also, here's the sound test for all the clicks. Next up, the coating is really good. It uses the smooth touch coating, which is also used in the Viper V3 Pro and the Deathadder V4 Pro. and is really grippy. Way more grippy than the Cyrox V8 and a little bit more than the RAWM Leviathan. It's not really a fingerprint magnet like the coating from Pulsar X-Lite V3 or the OP1V, for example, but there can still be some smudges on it. The coating on mine has worn down a bit, but it's still usable. I do have to add some grips on the side because my hands is a little bit sweaty and the weather in my place is pretty humid because I live in a tropical area. So it does get slippery sometimes. But if your hands are not sweaty or the weather in your place is rather dry, you can definitely use this without any grips. The sensor is okay. It uses the Razer Focus 26K sensor, which is an older sensor. It's like a slightly worse Palm 3395 sensor. I personally can't tell the difference between this sensor and the Palm 3950 on the Cyrox V8, F1 V2, and the RAWM Leviathan. And even pros like Vitality Robs in CS are also using the mouse, so I think you wouldn't have any problems using it. Also, as a little bonus, this mouse has a little holder for your dongle, so it can be a pretty solid traveling mouse in my opinion, especially because nowadays every single new releases only has an insanely large 8K dongle and doesn't have the little 2.4 GHz one. Now for the bad part. These problems aren't significant in my opinion, but I still want to mention them because maybe some of these problems can be annoying to you. Firstly, the main clicks. Even though the clicks panel feel pretty solid, the switches kinda suck. They're Razer Gen 3 optical switches, and they're kinda like Razer opticals, which are notorious for being the worst optical switch. On top of that, while the side-to-side wobble isn't too significant, there is a little bit of popping noise when you do the wobble checking thing. When pressing straight down is perfectly fine, and in-game, I don't notice it at all. But if you want a crispy and nice feeling main clicks, or if you hold your mouse somewhat aggressively, this might bother you. Secondly, the mouse doesn't have higher pulling rates like 2K, 4K, or 8K out of the box. This one is a little bit subjective, and personally I don't mind it, but with recent releases having 8K dongle included in the box, the fact that this mouse only has 1K out of the box can put some people off. It can still go up to 4K, but you have to buy the dongle separately, but I wouldn't recommend that because the dongle is so overpriced. Next up, the shape. To be honest, it's not bad or anything, but it's not good either, so I decided to put it here in the back section. It's rather safe, in my opinion, which you might argue because it's an ergo mouse. How could it be safe? But hear me out. You can basically use this mouse with any kinds of grip styles. It's a rather small ergonomic mouse, so you can still use fingertip grip with this one. I also mainly use fingertip grip, and while it felt a little bit weird at first, I can use it perfectly fine after like 2 weeks. Claw gripping should be the most suitable grip style for this mouse, and you can still palm grip it if your hand is on the smaller side, so it's rather flexible for all grip styles. However, it doesn't cater to any style specifically, and you may have some minor problems with it. For fingertip grip, I can use it perfectly fine, but because the sides are a little bit too flat, the hump is a little bit too pronounced, so it's really hard to have a stable fingertip grip with this one, and I would much prefer a smaller ambi mouse like the F1 V2. For claw grip, for the most part, is alright, but this sharp corner right here can be really uncomfortable for an aggressive claw grip like this. For palm grip is fine, but because it's a pretty small mouse compared to other ergonomic mice, it's only suitable for people with smaller hands. Lastly, the skates. They're not too bad, and I used them for like 4 to 5 months because I didn't want to void my warranty, but they were kind of thin, and started to get slower and slower, so I had to replace them with some X-Ray Pad J DOS gates. Overall, it's still an insanely good mouse, and I still consider it as my end game. The problems that I mentioned aren't really significant to me personally, but if any of them sounds concerning to you, you should probably skip this mouse. To sum things up before we get into the main questions, that should you buy the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed in 2026, here are the pros and cons. So in terms of pros, it has an insanely good build quality, great scroll wheel and side buttons, great coding, RX sensor, and it can be a really good traveling mouse. And in terms of cons, it has a rather safe shape, but it doesn't cater to any grip style specifically. It only has 1K pulling out the box, the main clicks on great, and the skates are mid. So to answer the questions, if none of these cons sounds concerning to you, and if you can get this mouse at around 70 US dollar, I would definitely recommend this. It's a rather old mouse, so discounts would be pretty frequent, I think. However, if one or more of these cons concerns you, or if it's not around 70 US dollar, there are definitely better options. For example, you can get the RAWM Leviathan V4 for only 50 to 60 US dollar, and the build quality are also phenomenal, and the main clicks are also better. Or for a bit more, you can get the new Viper V3 SE version at around 100 US dollar, or the Hiscan Hyperlights at 90 US dollar. Anyways, hope this video can help you decide whether you should buy the Deathadder V3 Hyperspeed or not. Personally, I really love this mouse, but with recent releases that are so good, I can see why it's falling into obscurity. Still, it's one of the cheapest mice from the name branded companies like Razer or Logitech that are decently good.